Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of DAX Machina. Joining us tonight is my brother from another mother, Robbie Rip Rains. Doc won't be with us tonight. He is in Tombstone, Arizona, living his cowboy fantasy. Him and his wife are down there for Tombstone days. They're doing Tombstone Red Dead Redemption, which I kind of wish I was there for that. I think that's probably going to be badass. But Doc's been posting some pretty awesome pictures and sending stuff to us. So, can't wait for Doc to get back and tell us some stories, because there's a lot of hauntings down in Tombstone, Arizona, and Doc's experienced it before. So hopefully when they get back, we'll have some, not only a Doc sighting, but we'll also hear some of his creepy stories. Steve also won't be joining us because Steve is on a cruise to Jamaica. So, Steve, if you're out there, you're probably not sober, and I don't blame you. I wouldn't be either. But if you're listening to us, have a drink for me, and I know you're with us in spirit, brother. So you guys have a wonderful vacation, and we'll be glad to have you back. Robbie, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Had to work today and got to work tomorrow, and then I'll be off for 2 days. So make it through one more shift, and I've got my weekend done, thankfully,
Without having to shoot anybody.
Well,
I know it was a near thing. We probably shouldn't go into a lot of details on the air, but
wasn't me. But
let's just say Robbie had an interesting day.
Yeah, very.
So, how you been since the Bigfoot conference?
It's kind of we got Texas coming up right after that, so we don't have a whole lot of downtime in between. So
I still got to get a bunch of books ordered in.
Yeah, I gotta. Well, we talked about that. I think I'm gonna just take the 4 bow racks that I got, but I'm gonna try to get some more flags to take down there. It's kind of one of those, you don't know how many you should take, but I think I can safely take more of those and pack more of those, because those bow racks were hard. Those things about killed me. We talked about it last night on
they are badass.
Well, they about killed me carrying it, because I can only fit 2 in one of those totes. So when we left to pack up, I took the heaviest one with me, because I'm gonna get that one done first. So I had one that had 2 bow racks, all 3 of the flags, the business cards, the banner, and everything else. The other one just had 2 bow racks in it. And I thought, well, it'll be quicker if we go out the door that they were letting everybody come in, because that was just right across the road from where we parked. Instead of going out the back, down that one ramp, and then back up that hill. Well, I went out the wrong door, and they shut the door, locked it behind me. So instead of coming out across from that Gillette house where we all parked, I come out right on the main drag right there. I was able to look and see that restaurant that we ate at. I come out basically right next to where me, you, and Annette went and ate that.
The burger?
The burger. I come out right that, so I had to walk all the way back down the street to that red light, to that number 8 or whatever it was, turn and walk all the way up the hill, and it's 900 degrees out there. I got my cowboy hat on, a black shirt, blue jeans, and cowboy boots, trying to walk up that hill. By the time I got back to Krista's car, I thought I was going to die.
You remember the tomahawk steak they had at the Berg for $120? Well, we should have ate at Jason Aldean's, because they have a tomahawk steak there for like $40. And it looked awesome. Annette and I watched a video on it. Next time we're there, we're eating at Aldean's place. Annette thought we were kidding. I was like, I want to eat there. She thought I was kidding. Well, watched a video on it. We really need to eat there.
We need to go eat there, and then we need to go to Old Red's, which is Blake Shelton's place.
The Old Red's? I didn't know that was Blake Shelton's place. That was right around the corner from where we were staying.
Yep, that's Blake Shelton's place. He's got one up there. He's got one in Oklahoma or Oklahoma City.
We almost ate there the last night we were there. I told Annette I wanted to eat Old Red's. If I'd have known it was Blake Shelton's place, we'd have ate there.
had I known the donkey was going to be broke, I would have suggested Old Reds, and let's move to Old Reds instead of the place with the broke donkey.
Yeah, I could have walked Old Reds from where we were staying.
Yeah, it was what we could have walked to the Berg from where you were staying, but we didn't know where we were going.
Right. Well, and the thing about it is in Gatlinburg, when it's busy, it's probably easier to walk anywhere.
Yeah,
And
but I would have had. We were in the truck, so I would still had to park it, and I couldn't park it at y'all's hotel because of the parking pass thing. So it's kind of stuck.
Well, hopefully next time I'll tell them that if we stay in the same spot, I'll tell them I need 2 parking passes.
Kay Bowers has got a question for me and you, and I guess since we both work security in a hospital, I'll let you answer. You worked more hospital security than I did. I only did it for a year.
Working ER security, stay on the move. Don't spend a whole lot of time sitting still. Yeah, because you want to walk your rounds through that ER a lot. Because you never know when something's going to kick off. And anytime you hear there's one coming in the ambulance bay, go check, because things kick off in the ambulance bay a lot. Some of the worst fights I've ever been in were in the ambulance bay. But you just remember everything you've learned. Try to be. I used to tell rookies this, especially in the jail: be fair, firm, and consistent. If you can be fair, firm, and consistent, you'll go far in any military or law enforcement type scenario. Just no today means no tomorrow. Don't have a middle ground. Be fair, firm, and consistent. Walk your rounds. Check on the staff. If you even think the staff is having trouble with somebody, poke your head in and say, "Hey, just wanted to check in, see if you guys needed anything. If not, I'll be outside." But stay close. I don't know how big your ER is. The one I worked in was massive, but walk your rounds. Walk them constantly, and check on the staff. Let the staff know you're there, and that they can come to you if they need anything.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that is, you probably have to watch your back a little bit more in a hospital ER at times than you do out on on the road, because everybody that you're dealing with in a hospital is already up to here for the most part, especially in an ER. The one I worked at in Greenville is a level 7 trauma unit. So we were always getting the worst accidents, things like that. So you're not just only dealing with the people who come in that are getting treated. You got family that's coming in that's going to be irate. The one that I worked at, they had a big family room. So if they put them in that family room, that was pretty much okay. They're just waiting for the doctor to come in and say it's done. So they would always have us standing right outside that, because you never know if a doctor's going to get assaulted when he goes in and tells somebody, "Hey, your loved one just died." So you really got to keep your head on a swivel working at a hospital. It's a hold. A lot of cops like to make fun of security guards. It just is what it is. It's kind of like that big brother picking on the little brother type thing. And most of that is geared towards the ones that are that are just sitting in a booth somewhere, or sitting in a one of those little checkpoints or something like that. Hospital security. I had plenty of Greenville City police officers that worked side security up there, and they treated me just like one of theirs, because they knew that's actually a pretty dangerous job, being a security person in an ER.
Yeah, it is. But take a lot of cues from your staff. If the staff's nervous, find out why. If the staff is dealing with somebody, make sure they know you're there if they need you, because sometimes they don't have time to ask. They can't say, "Get security in here." They're already fighting. So stay mobile, keep your head on a swivel, ask a lot of questions, check in with the staff. Try to be as compassionate as you can with people, with the family, because you're not dealing with them on their best day ever. But also remember, you're there to protect the staff. So if the family gets out of line, you got to put somebody down. And, that's just what you're going to have to do. You might have to put them in handcuffs or escort them out of the hospital. And I've done it many times. Just be fair, firm, and consistent. Be compassionate when you can. Take your cues from your staff and stay alert.
Yep. Hope that answered your question.
Hope it helps. And be safe. Above all else, be safe. Hey, Sentinel's in the house. What's up, Bubba? Good to see you, brother.
Oh, David got his 458 assembled. Good job.
Well, yeah, he was texting me earlier about that. Yeah, he's going to get it bore sighted and take it out and play with it soon.
Yep.
Eric Testerman's in the house. Hey, brother.
Yep.
Sorry, excuse me. Got the belches.
DA finally got to see the big girl this past weekend too.
She's pretty. That's a pretty rifle.
Yeah. That's my baby.
Hell yeah. So, tonight we're going to be talking about bizarre animal behavior. It's happening a lot. We talked about it to an extent on here before. We talked about how more and more you're seeing animals in areas where you didn't see them before. I mean, specifically, right off the top of my head, here in Springfield, Missouri, they're picking up mountain lions and black bears on Ring doorbell cameras in town. And we're not a small town. We're the third largest city in the state of Missouri, behind St. Louis and Kansas City. So it's a decent sized town. It's not like Mayberry RFD where you might have a bear wander into town. To get on some of these doorbell cameras, they had to come pretty far through a lot of residential areas to be showing up on these cameras. So that right there is enough weirdness. But since the Black Plague of the 21st century that shouldn't be named, we've noticed that animals are starting to take areas back because we were not in them for a long time.
Yep.
And I don't even really think that's bizarre. Nature just takes its areas back. What do you think, Rob?
Well, we talked about that before. It doesn't take long. If humans are not in an area, it doesn't take nature long to take back over. I mean, you see that all the time on an abandoned house. You drive by a house that people are living in, and then they're out of it for a few months. Whatever. It doesn't take long before grass and weeds and trees and are pretty much taken over. And then when you move a little bit further out to the outskirts, animals will start coming in, and then once they're there, that just puts them that much closer. So I mean, nature will, as Ian Malcolm said, nature finds a way.
That's right. Brandy Copeland says we've been getting mountain lions in St. Louis County. Animals are coming around in places where they haven't normally done so in a long time. I mean, also here in Springfield, we see tons of deer. We see raccoons and possums and the up-armored version of the possum, the armadillo. We've seen those in town for years. In fact, it got so bad. I saw one of those up here the other day.
Really? I saw the first armadillo, not the first one I've ever seen, but the first one I've seen in the upstate of South Carolina. I saw one run down the road the other day. I'm like, that's a tactical assault possum.
Yeah, those things they're versatile, man. They can live almost anywhere.
Yep.
So I think they're just slowly migrating north. But we've been seeing those in town for years. But the deer population got so bad in Springfield, they were authorizing limited hunts in some of the parks.
Well, just look at the situation in Florida with the pythons and all those other. I mean, they've had what 15, 20 years since that big hurricane that set all those things loose. Now, I mean, they're pretty much. I know Marty's in the chat. She could probably speak a little bit better on this than we could. You're not getting rid of these invasive Burmese pythons now. I mean, no. They're there. That you might as well call them an indigenous species now.
Pretty much,
they are firmly ingrained in the Florida wildlife now, and in those tegu lizards too. I mean, you're iguanas. You're not going to get
Nile monitors have been released as well. Roxanne Delgado says cougars have been on nature cams in Wablo, Missouri, 4 miles on 54 highway east of Collins. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, there was a bear just like a year or two ago wandering down the main street of Lebanon, and it's a town of about 15,000 people. It was just wandering through town. Heck, when Annette and I were on vacation, We saw quite a few bear, but that was up in the mountains. But it's not uncommon to see bear right down in downtown Gatlinburg. We watched several videos of like groups of bears getting into pools and hot tubs and chasing people and getting into trash cans. So this is not something entirely entirely new, but it does seem to be happening with more and more frequency. Got a super chat from Robert Miller. Thanks, brother. Thanks, Sentinel. Appreciate it, man. He said hippo character sitting in an office chair when they both transform into a mecha chair hippo hero.
Yeah. You have that on them big jobs.
Kay Powers had a question. She said,
"Well, while you look at that, Brandy said that somebody caught a snakehead in one of the lakes up there. Those things are big time invasive. They're almost as bad as the
snakeheads here in Missouri now too on the Mississippi River.
I think that's what she was saying.
Yeah, there was just an article the other day about them found one down near Cape Girardeau. Kay Bauer says, did the committee meeting about UFOs and such somewhat disclose cryptids recently too? I saw something about it, but I didn't want to get the whole clip. I haven't had a chance to watch that in detail yet, but I've had some people sending me some clips and stuff from it, and it kind of opens the door for other things. I won't say it really is the big reveal that we all expected it to be, but from what I've gathered so far, it seems to be just they're setting precedent for a lot of. Well, Robert, we see cougars all the time, but fortunately, none of us are in our 20s, so we don't have to worry about getting dragged off by a cougar anymore.
At least not the good kind.
Yeah, not the good kind. Werewolf 5674 says they say they have non-human biologics. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that they're going to be slowly admitting that they've had. I think they've had alien bodies since Roswell. Camo Dad says, does Bigfoot qualify as an invasive species? Not if it was here first. Two Shadows says, I had a coyote run in front of me on a busy road in town, ran towards a mini mall. I've seen coyotes here in town on a number of occasions.
When I used to work nights at where I'm at now, there's a very few nights in the summer that I didn't count 5, 6, 7 coyotes in different spots all over the place. I mean, they've been around for, I think, at least in South Carolina, the Department of Natural Resources game wardens, they reintroduced them to help out with the deer population, and it's there's not a deer hunter around here that can stand a coyote now, which I know they're not popular anywhere else either, but they're a pain in the butt too.
Kay Bauer says Texas says Bigfoot is open season and invasive. Last I hear, I'll have to look into that. I know Texas is the open season on hogs, on feral hogs, and in Missouri for the longest time it was too. All you had to do was let them know that's what you were doing, but they've recently changed that because what happened was people would go out and hunt these feral hogs, and if you shot 2, 3, even 4 of them, the rest of them would scatter. And eventually they would come back together. Sometimes they would even become part of other groups of pigs, but they weren't getting them all. But so what Missouri has started doing is they putting out baited patches with traps, and they have these big like paddock-sized traps that have spring gates, and they'll get an entire herd of these pigs in to eat that baited field, and those things will spring shut, and they'll have the entire herd at one time.
Yeah. David
Richard Cox says a cougar with lipstick and perfume is probably not a tame one.
Probably not. David says that Oklahoma has open season on hogs too.
Yeah, and Missouri used to, but they've kind of gotten away from it. Camo Dad says New York won't let you shoot feral hogs because they run and spread. Yeah, that's kind of what Missouri's gotten to. Northwood says a few years ago, one of the elementary schools went into lockdown until the DNR darted and removed a bear that was a block away. Yeah, to a bear, especially if he was hungry, a kid would be an easy meal.
Mm-hmm.
Sally T says, Robbie always heard they brought coyotes to South Carolina to hunt instead of fox.
Well, they told everybody that they brought them to help control, because deer population in South Carolina kind of exploded there at one time. So they were brought in to kind of stop that from happening. But, you know, who knows? They tell you one thing but mean another.
Right. But, you know, that's not the only, just them showing up in areas that they weren't in before. There's, you know, there's been a large number of animal attacks over the last few years. And some of them have been called dog attacks that I'm still not convinced were dogs. I still think, especially with the case of that Amazon driver that was killed up near Lexington, Missouri, I still think that was a dogman. I really do, because they killed the dogs, but no necropsy was ever released, and it's still an open case. So if they had actually killed the dogs that killed the person, it would have been a closed case, and they would have shut it down. Yeah. And also recently, Missouri Special Case Squad from the Missouri Department of Highway Patrol was called in to take possession of a body that was found on a gravel bar in the Missouri River, and they will not release any details of how they died. So something bizarre going on there. And it also wasn't far from that same spot where that hunter went missing last winter. They found blood and his rifle, and they didn't find him for 3 days. Yeah, who lays their rifle down to go track an animal? Nobody. That's it.
Nope.
Paul, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Kokoratis. I'm sorry, man. I'm butchering it. I know. There was a story from Russia earlier this year of a Siberian tiger jumping through a cabin window to attack a fisherman. Yeah, these aren't isolated cases. There are more animal attacks out throughout the western part of the United States. Mountain lions. There was the video floating around of that guy that had that mountain lion chasing him, and he was like holding his bicycle between it. Chased him on a trail. Then there was another little boy that killed one with a knife because it attacked him.
And the one I sent you the video of, where he had the Glock and it charged him, and he shot a couple rounds in the ground to try to chase it off.
I just shot it in the head. I'm sorry, if it's coming at me, warning shots are going to be facial.
And then there was the other one. The guy was backing down the trail, with the one with the cat kept coming up and smacking the ground with its two front paws.
Yeah,
I think that was in California.
I think so. Well, and another mysterious death. Actor Julian Sands, who had won numerous awards for hiking. He was an experienced hiker, disappeared on a clearly marked trail and wasn't found for 3 months. They still have not released cause of death. So we've got a lot of weird animal behavior, and it's not just limited to the North American continent. Strange animal attacks or strange animal behavior being recorded all across the world. But we're also seeing it also in the oceans. Specifically, right off the first thing I want to talk about is sharks. Robbie and I were just talking about a behavior noticed in sharks in a place we've never really heard of great whites before. Great whites are showing up off beaches in Indonesia, which they had not, because it's warm water. Great whites are notorious cold water sharks. Robbie, you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, great whites, makos, poor beagles, sharks like that in that family are endothermic, which I ain't seen Ken's little button. I use a big word and know what it means. Endothermic means they're in a sense warm blooded. They're not technically warm blooded, but their body
maintain a core temperature.
Yeah, they maintain a core temperature. So if the water outside their body is 56 degrees, let's say, they will hold a temperature at like 65, 70 degrees. It's because of the type of they're ambush predators. They typically chase their prey down. They're not like, swimming scavengers or anything like that. So they have to be able to fuel their body. So if their body temperature is the same temperature of the water around them, they're going to be a lot more sluggish. So by being endothermic, they can control their body temperature better. Well, the kicker to that is, because they're endothermic, if they stay too much time in tropical waters, they'll start to overheat and die. So that's why you don't typically see makos, great whites, poor beagles, anything in that family. It's like the salmon shark, which is basically a miniature great white. It's in the same family. That's that's a shark you typically see in Alaska in freezing waters. You don't typically see them that because their body cannot regulate their temperature back down. It can only regulate it up. So what they found though is in 2019, this diver or he's a spear fisherman. He's in and they never did find exactly where he was at. That he just was talking about the video because they were trying to find spots that actually looked like where the video came from. But he was just swimming on this little coral reef area, and this 16 or 17 foot great white shark just came up over the rise at him, and he said he'd never seen a great white like that before. Well, they started talking to some of the fishermen. Yeah, figures I'll be using big words from Doc and Ken or AWOL. Yeah, well, can't help it, David. Anyway, so they started talking to these fishermen in the all these little towns, and a lot of them started talking and saying, yeah, we have actually seen these sharks, but we've seen them out in deeper waters. They're usually following the yellowfin tuna. So what they found is there's this continental shelf that basically forms like this super highway, really deep in really cold water, that runs all the way from Japan all the way past Indonesia. So these great whites are using this little super highway, so to speak, and traveling this area, and they're just popping up in these places that they've never been before, finding food, going back and going on about their business. But in years past, I mean, you didn't really see big sharks like that in those areas. And you know, there's Egypt has had 4 or 5 fatal attacks in the past year from oceanic white tips. That's a pelagic shark, which is a deep water shark. But they got to looking into that, and they found out that a lot of those beaches, they go out about 100 feet, and then they drop like hundreds of feet. So these oceanic white tips, which is probably, everybody thinks bull sharks, tiger sharks, and great whites when they think of the 3 most dangerous sharks. But in reality, the oceanic white tip has probably killed more people than any other shark or any 2 sharks put together. Because anytime you've have some kind of major tragedy at sea, whether it be an ocean liner, a war vessel, or a plane crash, the Indianapolis, that those were oceanic white tips that killed all those sailors. These are because they are always out in the deep ocean, they're not picky. They're going to eat and take a chance on anything they find. So people bobbing up and down the water, that's easy pickings. So
yeah.
But they start to find out these beaches in Egypt are providing the perfect meeting point for people and these really, really dangerous sharks. So their attacks are on the rise over there.
Miller says we had a bear show up in San Marcos, a place that has never had a bear, highly populated. We have a lot of great whites showing up on the coast. And there was another one up here. Pork and Bean said, or the quote unquote bear that just killed somebody in Yosemite. I need to look that one up. Two Shadow says, I'm waiting on bull sharks to start making their way up the river. Been happening for years. There was a guy just a few years ago caught a 6-foot bull shark on a fishing line in the Mississippi River right off of St. Louis. They've been finding them in the Great Lakes.
Yep. And anytime you've ever heard of them talk about Zambezi sharks in India and Africa, those are bull sharks. And there've been bull sharks found as far as 250 miles up these river systems. So any of these freshwater rivers that you swim in, these big rivers, you've probably been swimming with bull sharks and just didn't know it.
More than likely.
Sorry,
Cowboys 5 Rings
ruin your life, but yep, that's what's happening.
Cowboys 5 Rings says a guy a few blocks from me opened his garage door and there was a mountain lion sitting in his driveway, and this is in the city, and this is becoming far more common. We're seeing a lot of animals showing up in places they haven't shown up before.
Would you look at the time?
Yeah, like, oh, shut that garage door. Two-way carrier says, DA, any new narrated books? Love them all, but no time to read. Been going to Audible from Amazon. I was talking to Cam the other day. He's hoping to have another one done soon. He has been swamped at work, but I am looking at possibly some other options about doing some of the audio. I may possibly be even doing some of them myself. David Martin says, sharks in the James River. The James River here in Missouri?
Oh yeah.
That would be terrifying. Eric Testament says bull sharks give birth in freshwater.
Yep.
That's not terrifying at all.
Yeah, they do that to protect their young. They
Right.
Most bull sharks pupping grounds are in fresh water, and they do that just so they have a chance to survive.
Roxanne Delgado says there's what they think is a huge shark that shows black between Baja and Mexico. It usually comes up for a few. Usually a boat hits, then people see it and it's gone.
That
The
would be the
black
black
demon, they call it.
They actually got a movie coming out about that one.
Mhm.
That shark has supposedly been haunting those waters for better part of 60 years, I think. There's people that say it's a meg. Of course, anytime there's a big shark sighting, people say it's a meg. But yeah, but the better part of 60 years, people have been seeing that shark or a shark like that or different shark. Who knows? It may be a whole new species of sharks that nobody's ever thought about.
They are finding new species all the time.
Yeah. Well, like the goblin shark, that's one that people, and the frill shark. Those are two sharks that are supposed to always be in deep water, but they've been found up in the upper water column over the past couple of years. Things are things are shifting and things are changing.
There was last time I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, just down from the resort we were staying. There was a lady who was on the intercoastal side. Not all the houses that are built along those little waterways they cut inside. There was a lady had her legs in the water in one of those and got bit by a bull shark.
Yep. If you're in the water with a tiger shark or a great white, chances of them actually attacking you are pretty slim. Bull sharks will bite you just because they're having a bad day. I mean, they're super aggressive. They have more testosterone level than any other shark species. I mean, that's why they got their name bull shark. But they're probably, if you really knew the numbers, because a lot of times until they brought that international shark attack thing online and started actually keeping up with things and started figuring out how to pattern the teeth and figure out who did what. Before all that, there's countless, and before they really started keeping records of it at all, there's no telling how many people bull sharks and oceanic white tips and things like that actually took before people just, the great white was that was the serial killer.
Easy one to blame.
Yeah, that's the one that everybody blamed. And
just recently in Australia, they found a new species of shark and identified a new species of venomous snake. Like Australia didn't have enough already.
Yeah, we'll just get another shark species, another poison snake. Way to go, Toombs.
Australia is trying to get the bumper crop and corner the market on deadly animals. I think they've got the rest of the continent's beaten. Tomb says 70 Cramo Dad 72 orcas have been hitting him. Funny you should mention orcas, because it's not just the sharks we're seeing weird behavior. There's a certain particular pair of orcas that they call port and starboard that have their shenanigans have been kind of legendary. Robbie's pretty well versed on port and starboard. Robbie, you want to tell us a little bit about those guys?
Port and starboard, two male killer whales that showed up in Hans Bay, South Africa, which is the shark cage capital of the world. That community and that area lives on tourists coming in to go cage diving with great white sharks. So these two killer whales, port and starboard, showed up and pretty much started killing every single great white in the area. And almost surgical precision, they were, and it actually somebody actually got it on film at one point where they had one of them in its mouth, turned it over there. They would bite the shark in the abdomen area and take its liver out. And then there was, I think it was 2 years ago on Shark Week, when they were talking about this, Dickie Chevelle and Allison Towner were the two that were on this show. And there was hundreds of great whites washed up on the shore at different times. Nothing wrong with them except the same bite mark, and they were missing their liver. So that's all these great whites were eating was the livers out of these sharks. That was the most nutritious part. And so every great white around, because a lot of people think sharks are stupid. Sharks are not stupid.
They're not mindless eating machines.
Yeah,
they're very intelligent.
Especially the great whites. I mean, they're extremely cautious about things. They don't. If something changes in their environment, they'll move off. So once all this stuff started happening and these two killer whales showed up, all the great whites took off, and it almost bankrupted this town. I mean, the town almost completely shut down and died because of this, because of two killer whales. And they're not going to kill the whales, but
they're endangered.
Yeah. So they found out that the sharks went from Hans Bay to, I want to say either False Bay or Mossel Bay. I can't remember which one it was, but they had moved over there because they actually started seeing them over that way. And last I heard, the two killer whales have kind of just moved on, and I don't know whether they followed the sharks or not. But these two killer whales just about killed this town and the whole industry.
That's a pretty weird industry to build your town's economy on, but
true. But if
whatever works for you.
Yeah, if you're a bay town in South Africa and you have one of the biggest seal rookeries in the world, that I mean, think about it. There's probably everybody in the comments have probably heard the term air jaws. That's been one of the most popular Shark Week shows since Shark Week started. That's where that started, was in Hans Bay, False Bay.
Sharks punching up out of the water with a seal in the mouth.
Yeah, it's called a Polaris breach. And but see, the thing with that and that data and that study that they did down there, that's what's got the stuff. They've actually got sharks to breach in Southern California now because of that. They've gotten sharks off the coast of South Carolina to breach because of this. But it's not something that they normally do, because the sharks in Southern California don't feed on these little small seals that they have to ambush. They feed on the big elephant seals, so they don't have to be as quick and as stealthy to catch them. But they're opportunistic, so they tow in a decoy behind a boat. They see it, they're going to take the opportunity. And a lot of times the sharks in Southern California are bigger than the ones in South Africa, just because of what their diet, what they're eating, and the fact that they don't have to do these Polaris breaches. So you're getting breaches from these probably 16, 17 foot sharks in Southern California. I mean, that's a 3-ton shark that's coming out of the water. That's a lot of power to get that.
A lot of force to get something that big out of the water. Well, they've got the images of whales doing it, like massive whales coming completely out of the water. So they've got some tremendous power.
And to go along with the different the way animals are changing here recently, now the makos in Southern California are actually growing bigger. Mako usually is in the 8 to 10 foot range. Just show that they're documenting 14 and 15 foot makos. Mako is typically a fish eater. They're a speedy shark. They're geared to catch fast prey. Well, now they're preying on seals and things like that the sharks are normally eating. So they're growing bigger. So you got, instead of a normally like a 8, 9, 10 foot mako being the upper range, now you got 14 foot makos, and they're competing with the great whites for the seals now. They actually had a head to head that they got on film of a great white and a mako, and the mako actually was a 14 foot mako, and it ran the 11 foot great white off. So there's weird stuff happening all over the planet. You got killer whales attacking boats now. That's never happened.
Yeah, that first showed up like a few months back. Killer whale, attacked a fishing boat, not a fish, a small yacht, and disabled it. And they had to call the Coast Guard because the boat eventually sank. Now they've sank several boats and they're attacking other fishing boats. And the really weird part is the behavior seems to be spreading. Initially, they thought maybe these killer whales were attacking out of revenge, that maybe like a female or a
The plot of
calf.
Orca.
Right, the plot of Orca. Maybe one of these boats had struck a baby or a mother with a calf, and the killer whales were getting revenge for that because they will. They're very intelligent. They're extremely intelligent animals. They're the largest. They're actually not a whale. They're the largest member of the dolphin family. So they're extremely intelligent. They're pack hunters. I'm not even sure we really understand exactly how smart these things really are.
No.
But this behavior is spreading, and so it's not something that unless they're getting revenge on all of us, there's really not a good logical explanation on why they're doing it.
If you want to just, all animal species have their certain things about them that are, if you look at it, it's just fascinating. But if you want to talk about a species as a whole that is just mind-blowing about how smart it is, different pods of killer whales that can be in the same territorial range of each other will hunt and kill two different types of prey. Like you'll have the ones in New Zealand that will actually beach themselves to catch seals. You have the ones in the Antarctic that have learned how to use those bow waves that will have a seal on a float of ice, and 3 or 4 of them will swim directly towards the ice and then dive down just the last minute, and that bow wave that's coming off the whales will wash the seal off of the ice, and there's another one waiting on the other side to catch it. You got other killer whales who have learned to take these bait fish that they feed on, like sardines or whatever else, and they'll school them into a big ball, get them, just constantly circle them. These are behaviors that they've learned, and then they teach. It's a generational thing, and they teach it like that, just like the port and starboard. They learned to do that. It wasn't just like they were just
reported behaviors of killer whales, basically punting seals just for fun. Yeah. They'll catch them with their tail and flip them like 30, 40 feet in the air.
Yep, it's like Tim said, they learn from each other. Mm-hmm. It takes a vast amount of intelligence, like primate type intelligence, that level of intelligence, to be able to try this behavior, practice this, figure it out, learn it, think, okay, this works. Now I need to teach this to everybody else, and teach it to everybody else generationally. I mean, that's not something that you see that. I mean, there's instinct, like, wolves knowing what they're supposed to hunt. But killer whales don't every pod of killer whales does not feed on the same thing.
Right. Some will hunt seals, others hunt sharks. Some go after tuna.
There's two separate pods in New Zealand. One hunts seals and one hunts stingrays, and they're within 50 to 100 miles of each other. And there's stingrays and seals in both of their territories. But this one pod specializes, and they've got video of them. They'll go down and they'll turn upside down and they'll blow air out of their mouth to rustle the stingray up out of the sand, and as soon as the stingray takes off, the other one's waiting and catches it. That's intelligence that's scary. And I mean, and how as a whale do you figure out beaching yourself to catch a seal? That's I'm sorry, I know I'm geeky, but I wanted to be a marine biologist, so stuff like that just fascinates me. And the sheer brain capacity to figure stuff like that out, that just it amazes me what
Yeah.
these animals are capable of.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And
They're go ahead.
the myth of humans being the only intelligent species and all these other just being dumb animals, that's been disproven time and time again. We're constantly just being astounded at the level of level of intelligence some of these animals have.
Yep. Like I said, Toombs, I wanted, but that was my dream job as a kid. Was I wanted to be. I read everything I could read on sharks and killer whales. Those were my two favorites. I think y'all can tell that's a kind of a passion of mine. I just, I've not missed a Shark Week in the 30+ years it's been on, or however long it's been on. Matter of fact, I've got it recording while I'm sitting here, and I'll probably go watch it before I go to bed tonight. And it's just, but like somebody said about sharks, they're not mindless eating machines like you heard in Jaws in 1974. All sharks do is not swim around, eat, and make little sharks. I mean, they do that, but that's not all they do, and that's not what they're. Sharks are intelligent. They may not be canine level intelligent, but they know what they're doing.
Well, here's a question for you, and you're using your words against you here, Rob. You said that you've read everything you could on sharks. Considering we've only explored what 5 to 10% of the ocean, what do you
Yeah.
think the odds of megalodon still being out there?
I think it's a distinct possibility. I mean, everybody says, okay, well, the big crux to that is there's not a food source out there. Well, that's bull. That's already been proven that there's giant squid that are 50+ feet out there.
Mm-hmm.
Very easily could be a food source for a megalodon. There have been whales that carcasses have washed up on shore with huge bites taken out of them that are bigger than any known shark species right now could do. So we know more about outer space than we do inner space. We've explored more of outer space than we have our oceans. And the problem with exploring oceans is, as we've just seen, unfortunately, is we don't have the technology to get deep enough to actually look at this stuff and find this stuff. We have to wait for it to come up to us, for the most part. And the chances of something that is that big and has survived that long just miraculously coming up to us, it's like winning the lottery, basically. Like you said, the ocean. What's the percentage of the Earth that's oceans? 70%, something like that.
And of that 79, at least 90% is unexplored.
Yeah. So, needle in the haystack doesn't even come close to describing how vast.
So why did NASA stop exploring the oceans? I mean, up until like 1954, they were focused on the oceans.
Maybe the same reason they stopped going to the moon. Maybe they found something they didn't want to find.
Miss Lene says, I think most animals are smarter than humans, except chickens. Chickens are stupid. At least mine are. I would agree with that. Chickens ain't the brightest birds. But you know what the dumbest bird is? Tame turkeys. Tame turkeys people raise like for people to eat and Thanksgiving and stuff. Those stupid things will drown in the rain.
So will guineas. Guineas will do that too.
It starts to rain, those dumb things will look up and drown with water droplets hitting them in the face.
SC007 says sign up for marine biology at Coastal Carolina. Yeah, there's a little problem of that costing money that I ain't got.
Well, Robbie, in any of the courses at MIT, which includes oceanography courses, any of the courses can be taken for free. You just don't get credit for them.
So
you could be taking a lot of these courses for free.
Or be a marine biologist without being recognized as being a marine biologist.
You'd be an uncredited marine biologist. You could take all the courses. You just wouldn't have the certifications.
Joe Parker asked if I would have taken that sub ride to depths. After Josh Gates said, no, I ain't getting on that sub, I probably wouldn't have.
I would take a ride on the one that Cameron went on.
Oh yeah, I'm not just going to jump on anything like that. And Josh Gates said there was a lot of problems with that sub because they wanted him to go. He was supposed to be on that expedition, and when he took the first tour on it, he was like, "Nah, there's way too many problems on this thing." So for Josh Gates to say that, who is probably one of the biggest adrenaline junkies of the 21st
notorious
century,
risk taker.
yeah, for him to say, "Nah, I don't think I'm gonna do that," then you might ought to listen to him. But now, what if it was a legitimate and been tested and everything was good to go? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, if it wasn't controlled by a PlayStation controller, maybe.
Because that's kind of, like Marty was trying to get me to go on a zip line, and me and he had to go on a zip line. That stuff like that scares me. I don't want to jump out of no airplanes. I don't want to do no
I don't
zip
like
line.
heights.
But I would go to South Africa, and I would go on a cage dive with a great white shark.
That would be pretty cool.
That's kind of almost a bucket list thing for me because I'm scared to death of something like that. But at the same time, just to be in the water inches away from that thing would be so incredibly exhilarating that I think it would overcome the fear.
Bernard Fox says, "You're a billionaire. Build your own sub." To me, that just the whole thing about just some guy decided to build a sub to go to the Titanic to take tours down there is kind of like, I don't know how John Denver died. John Denver died because he thought he knew enough about avionics to build an aircraft in his garage and then fly it into the Rockies, and it killed him.
And he definitely flew it into the Rockies.
He flew it into the Rockies. He just didn't fly it back out again.
Nope.
It's just because you got money doesn't mean you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And there's a difference in building something like an ultralight or building an actual airplane. I mean, there's a lot more goes into building an airplane.
He built an experimental airplane from a kit, and it killed him. And the same thing with this guy that built that sub, the Titan. He had no qualifications for building one. He just had a shitload of money, and he cut a lot of corners, and he did a lot of things that were questionable, and the end results speak for themselves.
Brandy, are you asking if I want to do a cage dive with saltwater crocodiles? If you're asking that, yeah, then absolutely. That's killer whales, crocodiles, sharks, anything like that.
I would do a cage dive with a shark or a croc, as long as I knew they couldn't get in.
There's in Tomb, you might can tell me which one it is, but there's a zoo in Australia that actually has one of those clear acrylic tubes that you can actually go down into the pool, one of their big salties.
There's a place in Las Vegas that has one of those clear acrylic tubes where you can swim with sharks.
Well, I actually, when we went to SeaWorld, I was this close to talking my ex-wife into letting me go do the scuba diving. She wouldn't let me do it because we had the kids, but you could actually pay and do we did the backstage tour where we got to go back behind all the sets and the glitz and the glamour. And I know people talk bad about SeaWorld, but I wanted to go to SeaWorld because I wanted to see these animals as close as I possibly could. But anyway, for an extra $100, I could have gone and done the scuba diving thing and got to go swim in their big tanks with the sharks. Oh, I wanted to do it so bad. But
so why is it we can't keep a great white in captivity? It fails every time we try.
Well, first and foremost, you would have to have a tank bigger than any aquarium that we've got built. They're just, great whites are so big and have to constantly move. Anytime you got an enclosure, they're going to bump into it, and that's going to cause injuries and things that don't heal. They don't want to be fed. They're a hunting predator. They want to hunt their meals. So being fed at a certain time every day doesn't usually jive with them. And it's just one of those sharks. It's just not conducive to captivity. there's only been a few that have actually lived past, a couple of days, and most of them end up, dying. And there's actually been at least one that I know of that they was able to get it back out into the ocean before it actually died. Maybe some more that I don't know of, but they've tried several times to keep them, and there's a week to 2 weeks is the onset of any time in captivity they've ever been able to keep one.
I've had several comments about people saying that John Diver had bought an experimental design, but regardless whether it was a kit or an experimental design, he built an airplane in his garage and thought he would be able to it would be safe to fly, and he got proven wrong. And I think it's the same case with that sub. I mean, I think this guy just thought, I throw enough money at this project, it'll be fine, and it didn't. It didn't work. I was going to say something else. So what do you think might be the cause for for killer whales attacking boats? What do you think spurred that?
Well, see, and that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with killer whales. You can have one pod do something over here, and this pod over here does something completely.
But the behavior seems to be spreading.
Well, they have learned behavior, like I said. So you may have kind of like, and I'm not trying to bring up anything bad, but kind of like when you got a big crowd and somebody does something, and then another person does it, and then another person. Before you know it, everybody's doing what this one person started, whether it be bad, good, whatever. So I'm not saying this is it 100%, but theoretically it could be. You got these two killer whales that started this, and these other killer whales saw this, and they're like, "Oh, I want to try that," and then it's just kind of started spreading that way. I mean, they're smart enough for stuff like that to happen.
You're saying it's the the killer whale equivalent of a TikTok challenge?
There you go. It's the killer whale equivalent of the mob photo, what everybody's doing. I mean, it's a theory. I mean, I'm not saying that's it 100%. But like I said, they do learn a lot of the behaviors, a lot of the hunting strategies that they use.
Mm-hmm.
It's all learned. They learn it from somewhere. So they had to learn this behavior of attacking boats, especially if it's spreading. It had to come from somewhere. So maybe you got some that have just started, parroting what they see.
Do you think this might be a case of them just being tired of us messing up the ocean?
I mean, I think they're smart enough to where something like that is definitely possible. Like we said,
I mean, when boats go to sea, it ain't like when you go camping in an RV. When you go camping in an RV, you've got the black water tank, you got the gray water tank. When you're done camping, you go over and you have to purge those in a specific place. Not on boats. Oh. They just purge those out into the ocean.
And here's the thing. With their echolocation, we have no idea what the capacity of that is. It may just be for communication, but it could be because of how smart they are.
Look at whale song. Whale song conveys far more than just instructions. It's a language. It's their ability to communicate over great distances. So it only makes sense that both whales and killer whales and dolphins could communicate far more with their clicks and their echolocation than just how to find something.
Killer whales will sing too.
I didn't know that.
They make the same. They make almost the same type sound as. It doesn't sound like the humpback whale, but they can vocalize just like humpback whales can.
There have also been a number of places that have been reported sightings of killer whale dolphin hybrids.
Yeah,
So
there's
apparently they can interbreed.
yeah. God, what's it called? I was just reading something about that the other day. I can't remember. But there's actually a population of large dolphins that are marked up black and white like killer whales, but they're more shaped like dolphins, but they've got the markings of the killer whale. But I can't think of what they're calling them.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember what they were calling them either. And Toombs just pointed something else. This was just something I just read an article about the other day. I think it was almost 200 whales, pilot whales, beached themselves on a beach in Australia, and they
Yeah,
were trying to save as many of them as they could, but a bunch of them had already died.
pilot whales do that all the time, and they have not been able to figure out what causes that or why they do that. That's like a really common occurrence for pilot whales, which is funny that they call them pilot whales because apparently they can't pilot themselves too good. Because I mean, literally, that is a very, very common occurrence. But it's like there is so like blue whales, largest animal in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But we know a few things about them, but we don't know really that much about what blue whales do or what, because they live so far out in the ocean and so deep most of the time that we really don't know a whole lot about them. But as big as that thing is, that would make a pretty good meal for something like a megalodon.
Yeah, it sure would.
I mean, because a blue whale calf is about the size of a humpback whale. Now think about how big and massive a humpback whale is, and that's the size of a blue whale calf.
And it would be pretty easy prey for a megalodon.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talking about something swimming around the size of almost the size of a football field, and having its baby is the size of 2 buses.
Right. Hollywa Wolf 92 had a good point. The pilot whales may be getting chased by something bigger, but you wouldn't think that would make the entire pod beach itself. Um, you know, I think they would prefer that one or two stragglers get picked off than the entire pod die. But that, I don't know. That it's just a Sally T says is pollution affecting sea life. It very well could. I mean, they say that they're like not oceans, like clumps of garbage the size of small states floating around out in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to figure out ways for years to try to deal with all the plastic just floating out there.
Yeah. I watched a YouTube video today. Matter of fact, it's a fishing video. They were out in I can't remember what river they were in. They caught a baby bull shark, and it had a hook in its fin. So, they pull the hook out that they use, and they pull the hook out of that. And just right before that, they had caught a pelican that it looked like its wing was tied up and it was wrapped up with fishing line. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that ticks me off more. I was always taught, leave the woods or the water, whatever, leave it better than you found it.
Take only pictures, leave only footprints.
Yeah, but there are so many jackasses out there who do not care, and that's why we're in a lot of the situation we're in, because people just don't care.
Right.
I mean, and you got people that talk bad about hunters, and there's bad hunters out there, but there's other people that are, but hunting is not a bad thing if you do it the right way.
Right.
Going out and enjoying the nature is not bad as long as you do it the right way. But if you go out and you just toss beer cans and beer bottles and drink can holders and all this stuff out in the water or leave it out in the woods, eventually something's going to come back on you. And maybe some people in the chat are right. Maybe this stuff's starting to come back on us.
I'm not saying we don't deserve it.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we've done this stuff so long. We've squandered so many of our natural resources. We've let so many species go extinct because we got to cut the. And you know how I am. You're the same way. I can't stand these big corporations coming in and clear cutting woods.
I'm right there with you.
That drives me up the wall. But we got to make more room for all these. All these more people to come live and.
I think it should be a requirement for these companies that log. I think it should be a requirement that for every tree you cut, you have to plant 2.
But that's the thing. They're gonna lobby, and they're gonna have their people that are cutting the deals for them. And I don't consider myself a tree hugger, but you got to preserve the natural world.
I am 100% agree. Somebody, Mike A said, I've always cleaned up others' trash before I've set up camp. Bring extra trash bags. Every time we've ever camped, we do that. We take extra trash bags, and we generally pack out more trash than we brought in. I will go around with a sharpened stick and pick up beer cans and all kinds of trash in any area I camp, because I want to try to leave it for the next person the way I wanted it when I got there. Just because it was full of trash when I got there doesn't mean I'm going to leave it that way.
Leave it better than you find it. I mean,
exactly.
And I don't know why people think it's so hard. And it's not really that they don't think it's hard. They just don't care. Like I said, it's easier to just toss a can on the ground than it is to bring a trash bag and put it in trash. And, I know things are different now than they were when we were kids, when you used to go to the trash dump and just dump everything in a trash can, and they would go out and dump it in landfill. And I know that doesn't need to be done anymore.
Right.
I know it's a hassle the way these recycling centers work now. But come on. In the grand scheme of things, is it really that much of a hassle compared to some of the other stuff that we have to do?
Right, exactly. Somebody made a comment. I'm going to comment on it earlier.
But when you think about why you're looking for that, stuff like this has been happening for a long time. It's really kind of got kicked into gear. Because go back to, we were talking about it before the show, the lines of Savo, what the Ghost in the Darkness was based on. That wasn't natural behavior for lions.
No, those lions were essentially serial killers.
Yeah, and I mean, have lions killed people before that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Even now in some of the game preserves, they have no idea, because a lot of the local tribesmen walk through those areas. They have no idea how many people lions get every year.
But for 2 male lions to basically team up and go on a killing spree using a man-made railroad as their killing ground, basically.
Their hunting grounds.
Their hunting ground. That is weird. That's not natural behavior.
No. That is something they figured out and started exploiting.
Yeah. And that just goes back to that intelligence quote, or intelligence factor that we talked about earlier. These are not dumb animals.
No.
And if a lion,
I think that's part of the problem. I think that's the excuse that they're just dumb animals is the excuse that so many people and companies have used, to cause massive amounts of pollution. Because they're just dumb animals. What do they know? When we're learning more and more every day that they're not just dumb animals, they're all very intelligent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of my all-time favorite movies is Greystroke,
Great movie.
Great movie. But I watched it again the other day for the first time in a long time, and I got the scene where they're right before, after his parents died and everything, but when he's an adult, and that the party comes through, and look, that guy that goes through, and like when they're coming on the boat, and he just pulls his rifle up and shoots something. He says, "God damn it, it's a dead thing now." And I'm like, that's the kind of people that we're fighting against right now.
Right, exactly.
And as soon as they hear something moving off, they take off and start shooting everything they can find. It's just people like that who
shot it just because they could.
Yeah, who misuse natural resources, hunt things to extinction. You know, just like, I mean, that's what, like, those guys that are the, whatever you got, they're not rangers, but they're basically special forces for the animals. If you think in Africa, that if
people that hunt poachers.
Yeah, hats off to those guys. Because
I've hunted a big chunk of my life, but I've never trophy hunted.
no,
I don't have any trophies mounted in my house. Of that I had a couple of that I thought about it because I really liked the rack on a deer or something, but I never did it because one I didn't have the money. But I always hunted to put food in the freezer.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I went out hunting because I wanted a big buck mount to mount in the living room. I went out hunting because I wanted to put meat in the freezer, and if I happen to get a trophy worthy one, that was just a perk.
Now, Eric, park rangers are not the ones that we're talking about. These guys are separate from the park. They work for the parks, but they're not park rangers. Park rangers are the ones that go out and handle issues and things. These guys are the ones that come in to specifically go hunt the people who are poaching. And
right. And a lot of those African game preserves, they had anti-poacher teams that were just out there to protect rhinos.
Yep. But yeah, I'm not opposed to it. If I'm out hunting and I take a big buck, I'm not opposed to putting that on my wall. But I'm not gonna hunt that buck and shoot that buck just for that, because the rest of him is gonna be in my freezer. His head may be on my wall, but everything else is gonna be in my freezer, and it's gonna be it.
I do enjoy a. We would take like the tenderloin and slice it thin, and then tenderize it and roll it in eggs and cracker crumbs. Ooh. Ooh.
Tenderloin's good. But that's that's what I'm saying. I'm not opposed to putting them out on my wall, as long as I do it the right way, which I'm going to do it the right way. The rest of it is going to be in my freezer, and I'm going to be using it. Right. But people that and you've seen it before, that'll go out and shoot a buck, cape it out, and then leave everything else out on the ground.
Right. I've seen people just take the back strap.
Yeah, I've even heard people say, "Well, I'm helping the environment out. I'm leaving that for the animals." Oh, BS.
Oh, that's a load of crap.
Yeah, BS. If you don't want the meat, donate it.
There are a number of charities that will happily take it.
Exactly.
I know here in Missouri, if an animal is killed, like a deer is hit on the highway, if you call 911 and say, "I've just hit a deer," when the police show up and they say, "Okay, this deer is dead," sometimes they will offer it to the person that hit it, but 9 times out of 10 they will take it to a food pantry where it'll be cut up and given to people who are hungry. I mean, don't waste it. To me, somebody that would just hunt just for sport, I got no respect for that. I can't stand it.
And that's I would never go and do one of those hunts in Africa, because I'm not going to eat an elephant. I'm not going to eat a rhinoceros. I'm not going to eat a Cape buffalo. I'm not going to eat a lion or a jaguar. The big fight.
Although I do know guys who have hunted Cape buffalo, and they said the meat's actually quite good.
Well, if it is, that's fine. But how many people are eating elephant? How many people are eating rhino? Not many. I mean, unless you're one of the tribes that live over there and that's what you live off of. I mean,
yeah.
But I'm not going to spend my hard-earned money to go over to Africa to shoot an animal like that, because there's no need in it. There's no sense.
Why would you hunt a giraffe?
No, but just because that's what kind of hunter you are.
Right.
When I go out and I go hunt deer because I love deer meat. That's my favorite type of meat.
It's also much better for you than shall we say, over processed beef.
Yep.
It's not loaded with chemicals. It's elk meat. Oh my God, elk is so good.
Yeah, don't get me started on elk. Oh, that's great.
Love elk.
Best steak I ever had was an elk steak at we got a wild game restaurant called God, it just left me, Saskatoon's. phenomenal. I've
I ever
had
get out that way, or we're going to eat there. You already got me hungry. There's
emus,
also
ostrich.
a
Oh,
number of
great.
places that sell what they call beefalo, which is a hybrid
Yep.
between a buffalo and beef cattle. Fantastic meat,
Yep.
super lean. Oh man, so good. But it's kind of hard to find. But if you can find a place that carries beefalo, fantastic flavor. It's super lean. One of the best steaks you'll
Yep.
ever have.
But it's like my point with all that was this stuff has kind of been gradually happening for a while. It's just now it's just instead of your little isolated incidents like the lines of Savo, little things like that, the
Port
like
and starboard.
port and starboard, which that's
They
fairly
might not be
good.
hunting man, but they were basically serial killers for great whites.
Yeah, but what happens to the ecosystem in the ocean if you take the great whites out?
Yeah,
I
things
mean,
get out of whack.
yeah, even if it's killer whales is doing it, it's still gonna, it's still gonna throw everything into off kilter. And I can't understand why people can't see stuff like that. It's just like, and we've dealt with it in our careers. People who constantly do the same thing over and over and over again, and you arrest them time and time and time and time again. And you're like, when are you going to get it? It's the same thing.
Right.
When is it going to register with these idiots that we're killing this planet and there's no going back from it if we don't stop?
Right. Hollywood Wolf said, question: when y'all hunt, what do y'all do with the guts and entrails?
That's usually stuff that you leave for the scavengers.
For the scavengers.
Yeah.
I don't eat the gut pile. I don't eat I don't eat the organs. Generally, well, once it's field dressed, we'll leave that for coyotes or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that eats the guts.
I mean, there are people who make stew out of the organs. I'm not one of those. I'm sorry.
I do know people that really like deer liver.
Yeah.
Supposedly it's loaded with nutrients, but I've never tried it.
I'm not one of those that was going to eat that. I mean, tenderloin, backstrap, flanks. Yeah, I'm gonna take those, but I'm not
roast.
too big on taking the guts. But there again, if that's all you're leaving, it's going to be taken care of very quickly. That's not going to last. It's not like it's going to stay out there and start to decompose, and it'll be gone as soon as you're out of the area. It'll be gone within probably 30 minutes tops, if even that long.
Meg Mill says deer heart is good. I've never tried the heart. I think next time I get one, I think I am going to keep the liver because I don't mind liver. I've had beef liver a number of times. Liver and onions and peppers is actually pretty tasty, but I've never tried the deer liver, and I know people that swear by it. So I may try that.
I'm not a big liver fan.
Okay, Hollywa says Hollywa is the basic way to pronounce it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you pointing that out. Poncho Sort says, I eat the heart provided it didn't penetrate with my arrow. But, I know a lot of Native Americans when they harvested a deer, they used pretty much everything. I grew up my family raised hogs. And when we did when we butchered hogs in the fall, my grandparents, they used everything. They made blood sausage. They made head cheese. They made pickled pig's feet. Literally every part of that hog got used. But I'm telling you, if you've never experienced a hog boil, that is a smell you will never, ever, ever forget.
Uh-huh.
Poncho Vort says, learn how to poach in oil. Works great with venison. TD Squatcher says, careful, lots of diseases are filtered in the liver. Anymore with chronic wasting disease being so rampant, you have to have your deer tested before you have it prepared. So I would be very careful about making sure you have your deer tested. It doesn't cost that much extra to have it tested. To me, it's worth it. And there are places I know around here that will butcher your deer for you, and they won't even touch it without the results of that test. Silverman says, I love head cheese and pickled hog's feet. I'm telling you though, you got to have an acquired taste to like blood sausage. Oh my God, that is something I will. I never developed a taste for it, and I hope to God I never do. Monday says using everything but the squeal. Yep, pretty much.
But like I said, I think this is something that's been kind of gradually happening, and it's just now becoming prevalent because we're seeing all these things happen at one time versus one here, one there, things like that. Another one that kind of is curious to me, and it's another, we're going back to sharks again, is the fact that they're starting, and somebody mentioned deep blue a little while ago, which is probably I think it's the largest great white that was that's ever been filmed. It's not saying it's the largest one ever, but it's the largest one that's been filmed in recent years. And she was plus 20 feet. Some people say 22 feet. Some people, but she's at least over 20 feet. That's big.
That's a big shark.
But now do you remember the lady that got killed in Hawaii and they didn't find anything but part of her flipper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Forrest Galante was the one that was talking about this. Immediately when somebody gets attacked by a shark in Hawaii, what's the first shark you hear about?
Great white. Great white or mako. Tiger shark.
Tiger shark that's the main culprit in Hawaii. That everybody, if you get attacked by a shark in Hawaii, first shark out of everybody's mouth, tiger shark. So obviously that's the first shark they start talking about. There again, Hawaii's these tropical waters again. They found a whale carcass a mile or two offshore. They found 5 or 6 great whites feeding on this whale carcass. Deep blue was one of them. This was in the same time frame that this woman was killed and eaten. Tiger sharks can get up to 20 feet. They don't usually get that high. Usually 16-ish is kind of an upper level for them, and that's a big tiger shark. But what would have a better chance of attacking a human and eating it whole and not leaving anything? A 16-foot tiger shark or a 20-foot great white?
Great white. And
there were 5 or 6 17-plus foot great whites that were in the area at the same time feeding on this whale carcass. Well, some people say, oh, well, they were feeding on the whale carcass. They weren't always feeding on that whale carcass. That whale carcass was just there, and they're opportunistic. That doesn't mean that they were there the entire time that they were there eating on that whale carcass, and that's all they ate. They're opportunistic. So there's a chance, you'll never know with speculation because they were never able to find her in any part of her body. There's a chance that she was killed and eaten whole by a great white.
Yeah. Pyromedic says, have you heard about the great white that was eaten and drugged down over 1,000 feet? And the sensor they had on it showed surrounding temperature was 70 to 6 degrees, suggesting it was inside a belly.
Yep. They did 3 or 4 different shows on that over 3 or 4 years of Shark Week. They call that the killing fields. They found killer whales in that. They found sperm whales, great whites, all other kinds of sharks. And the most popular theory that they have kind of settled on is it was a big killer whale. Because this was like a 13, 14-foot great white, I think. It was at least 10-plus feet. I can't remember.
Killer whales only bite the liver.
Right, but they said it could have been just an anomaly that because the tag popped up later on. That's how they found the tag and started getting all the information, was because whatever killed the shark
passed the tag.
But this area that this happened in is it's like, and I'm not gonna say there's no other areas like that because we know how little of the ocean has been explored, but it's no other area that we've discovered has been like this. It's just like every super predator in the ocean goes through this area. Like I said, killer whales, sperm whales, great whites, tiger sharks, all these super predator species are in this area. And like I said, the last show that I ever saw, and I think they were kind of pretty much hooked on a theory that it was a big killer whale that killed it, or another big great white. That's a possibility too, obviously, because they're endothermic, so that body temperature would have been higher than the water level. They did say that they thought that was too high of a body temperature for it to be a great white at the depth they were at, because it's only going to level out a couple of degrees above what the water level is.
What if it was a Meg?
Could have been. That was theorized as well.
Because the one they were talking about, was a big great white.
Well, see, now they're changing their theory on it now. They're saying that, 'cause years past, that's been that great whites diverged off the line the Megs are. But now they're saying that Megs were actually a totally different subspecies of shark than great whites. And that's just a recent theory that they're starting to come out with, because they've come up with this new procedure that they can actually extract proteins and minerals from teeth, and they can tell what the shark ate for its nutrients. Well, guess what was in these Meg teeth? They were eating other sharks. So they're theorizing that Megs actually fed on great whites, but great whites kept on thriving and surviving. Megs didn't, which, we all know that that's a possibility. Megs are still out there, but that's the new theory now, is that they're too, because really all we got to go by is their jaws or teeth. Nobody really knows what they look like.
Right.
Everybody just assumes because of the shape of their teeth that they look like a big great white. They could look totally different than that.
Yeah, they could have had a whole different body structure.
I mean,
CD Squatcher says, speaking of chronic wasting disease, it's related to BSE, which is mad cow. Do you think it's possible to jump the species barrier back to humans? I don't know if you can jump the species barrier, but it certainly can kill you. Chronic wasting disease, they're warning people here in Missouri all the time not to eat deer that are infected with chronic wasting disease, because it can and will kill you. It's a prion disease, just like mad cow. So I don't know if it technically is jumping the species barrier, but if you're eating meat that's infected with chronic wasting, it's probably going to kill you. Papa Bear's heading out. Good night, man.
Not Papa Bear. But it's really, when you start having a conversation like we're having, and you start talking about one thing, and then you start thinking about it, it's wild how many of these things really are happening. You don't put the two and two together until you really start talking about it.
Right.
So, and who would think that something simple like a couple of lions that go on a killing spree however many years ago could be related to two killer whales that decide to go on a killing spree of all the great whites in the same continent, by the way.
Yeah.
Years and years and years later. But it could all be converged back to the same thing, causing, some kind of global shift that's causing all this stuff to start happening. It just started a little bit more gradually.
Good night, Miss Lene. Miss Lene's heading out.
Thanks
for being here. Brandy Copeland says, here in Missouri, you have to get your hunt tested. That's assuming they took it legally. And I know it does happen. A lot of people take deer out of season, and you can't get those legally tested. So, yeah, if you know anybody that's taking deer out of season, tell them they need to be very damn careful, because if they eat a deer with chronic wasting disease, it's probably going to kill them. Hollywood Wolf says, Robbie Rains, what show put out of the great white-eating kelp? Was it Shark Week or standalone show?
I remember hearing somebody talking about that, but I think that was a standalone show. I don't remember seeing that. It might even be because, National Geographic actually has their own version of Shark Week that happens at the same time. Might have been one of those. I don't usually watch that one because I don't like National Pornographic because I just don't agree with a lot of the stuff they say. But it might have been on one of their shows. I do remember hearing or seeing a show and somebody talking about that, and I think they were talking about that it was some form of like maybe if they felt like they had some kind of something wrong with them or something, it was
kind of like a dog eating grass.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't, like I said, I remember hearing that. And I don't remember the exact reasoning that they were, and obviously they can't go down and ask the shark, why are you eating the kelp? So there was theories from what I remember that it was just kind of like an accidental thing, or they just happened to do it, or it could have been something that an internal thing like a dog eating grass.
Right.
But there's theories out there about kelp that, because that was one of the things that they kind of brought up, that people at times thought that they were safe from a shark if they swam into the kelp beds. They were like, well, now we see them eating. Obviously, they're not scared of the kelp. So
right,
it's it's just things are going to change the more people study these animals, and it wasn't but up until like 3 or 4 years ago that they decided that Guadalupe Island is one of the pupping grounds for great whites.
Right.
But
Roxanne Delgado has a good question. She says, to me, nature evolves like anything else does. The question is, in which direction will it go in? It's anybody's guess. Much like the case that we were talking about with the lions, or with port and starboard, the killer whales. They're far more intelligent than we give them credit. And if they adapt, like say, for example, let's say with the noticeable trend in what was it, tiger sharks that are getting bigger, Robbie?
Makos.
Makos. Okay, so if it's Mako sharks are getting bigger, what if at some point tigers decide humans are now on the menu? They don't swim very fast. They're easy to grab. Why don't we just start eating people? And if that behavior takes off, you probably ought to stay out of the water anywhere they're at. We can't control what these animals are going to decide to do next. They're far more intelligent than we've ever given them credit for. They're extremely good at problem solving, and they're adaptive. The thing about surviving in the wild is if you don't adapt, you die. So they're adapting to their environment. And if that does put us on the menu, then guess what? It's, it looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah.
Humans are a pretty easy target.
Here's the thing to all you people that like to go to the ocean and go out in knee deep or thigh deep water and think, oh, I'm safe. If you had Superman's X-ray vision and you could see how many sharks are usually within feet to inches of you at any given time when you're in the ocean, you'd never step foot in the ocean again. We're not on
drone footage off Myrtle Beach.
Yep.
Where there'd be like 100 people swimming and there's just sharks just like moving in among them.
We are not on the menu. Do we get attacked and eaten by sharks sometimes? Yeah. But when we go, we go into their living room all the time. If we were on the menu as much as we're in the water, sharks would be the most prolific killers that ever were on the face of the earth.
Because they have the opportunity far more often than we realize.
Yep. We do far more damage to sharks every year than they do to us. If sharks kill 10 or 15 people a year, which number's probably a little bit more than that, but let's say sharks kill 30, 40 people a year reported. I know there's places that still, like in India and places in Africa and rivers that people get taken by sharks that they don't report it. understand that. But let's even say 100, just to throw a big number out there. We kill 100 sharks a year, or sharks kill 100 people a year. We kill probably close to 1 million sharks a year for no more reason other than somebody wants to drink some soup made out of their fins. So they'll catch the shark, cut the fin off, and let the shark fall back in the ocean, throw the fin in. We way worse to animals than animals are to us. And that's what people don't understand is, and it's what DA and I are talking about. Maybe these animals are starting to say, you know what? F them hairless apes.
In many cases, we deserve it.
Yeah.
We have done nothing good to animals since, since ever.
Ever.
We've got people that hunt for sport. We've got people that hunt just because they can. When animals will eventually get tired of it. When they realize that they can start taking us out, it's a whole different ball game. And we're starting to see that animals are losing their fear of us. We're seeing large predators in areas we've never seen them before, like cities. And who's to say that they aren't taking people? Who's to say, much in like we've talked about with cryptids, who's to say that in populations that just don't get reported missing, like homeless populations or illegals, that they're not getting taken and we just don't know? Robbie, what do you think?
I think you're 100% right. I think if you don't believe it, just ask was it Roy or Siegfried that found out the hard way?
Tiger turned on him. I think it was Siegfried.
So, and it's just like, I love tigers. That's one of my favorite animals. I'd love to have a pet tiger. But all these people that keep these exotic pets, a lot of times they're the ones that find out the hard way. Some
like
of them
that lady that kept that chimp, and it ate her face and fingers.
Yeah. And some of them are good people that are just trying to help these animals that can't go back into the wild. I get that. But these things are wild animals. You can't tame a Bengal tiger, not completely. You can't tame a bear. Just like that bear, the bear trainer a couple months ago got killed by one of his bears. These are wild animals. You're not going to take all these years of instinct it's not going to happen. But we want to control everything because we can. And that's just not people find out the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the wild, once we get away from our protected little cities and get away from our homes, you get out in the wild on the animals' terms, you're not the top of the food chain. We might have a gun, we might have the ability to use tools, but these things are smart. And hunters get taken out all the time. There are bear hunters in Alaska that go out and don't come back. And in the case of the missing 411, the hunters, I think these are the guys that took a shot at a cryptid. They might have saw a dogman or they saw a Bigfoot and thought, hey, I'll put this thing down and I'll be famous. And they clip one and it doesn't drop. Or its buddies take umbrage to the fact that they just shot one of their friends and take care of the hunter. Well, I don't think we're as on the top of the food chain as securely as we think we are.
Well, you take our technology away, if you take our technology away, it takes all that stuff. If you're standing there and you ain't got anything but your bare hands, and you're staring down a Bengal tiger, what are your chances?
You're not winning.
You're not. Especially if that tiger wants to take you out. You're swimming in an ocean and you're being circled by a great white shark. What are your chances of making it out of there if that shark decides it wants to eat you? You're not.
Yeah, when you're in their environment, you are not the top of the food chain.
And people cannot swallow their pride long enough to realize that, yes, we're smart. Yes, we're technologically advanced. But we are nothing compared to most of these animals that walk. I mean, predator-wise. I mean, even things as small as snakes. I mean, we really don't have a chance against. against a venomous snake if it decides it wants to bite us. I mean, how fast does a rattlesnake strike?
Very fast.
You ain't gonna get out of the way of that if it decides it wants to bite you.
Especially if you stumble up on it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be bit before you know it's there.
Yep. What do they call the black mamba, or is it the green mamba? They call the two-step. One of the mambas they call the two-step. I think it might be the green mamba.
I think you're thinking of the crate. They called it the Asian two-step.
Yeah, but I'm talking about one of the mambas they called in Vietnam. They called it the two-step, and I think that's the green mamba. I think when it bites you, you're gonna take 2 steps and you're gonna fall over and die. And there you go again.
That's a snake.
And talking about crates, sea crates, that's the most poisonous snake in the world. Luckily, it's in the ocean. But you get bit by that, you probably ain't gonna make it back to shore.
No.
Or to the boat.
As supposedly the top of the food chain, we're remarkably frail creatures.
Yep. We don't stand I mean, that's why people. How many times you hear of polar bears freezing to death?
You don't.
You don't, because they're adapted for their environment. How many times you hear people freezing to death? Way more times than you hear of a polar bear freezing. How many times you hear of a fish drowning? You usually don't, unless something happens and we've done something stupid like throwing garbage in there or net and cause it to be able to stop swimming.
Right.
You know, we want to think that we're so high up and we're so this and we're so that, but swallow your pride, people. It's just, that kind of. I've always loved animals. I've always been an animal lover, but I hunt, I fish, but I do it the right way. I don't take more than I need to put meat in my freezer. I don't go out there and do it just because I can do it. Now, but there are people out there, just like you said, that just do it just because they can.
Right.
Oh, I got a gun. I'm gonna go shoot something. That's my soapbox for today, I guess.
Right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you. Hey, while I'm thinking of it, let's say we hear a word from one of our good folks at the affiliate program. I've got a little word I'm going to play from the man himself,
From the
Kerry
little guy.
Davis.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And if you go to darkangelmedical.com, make sure you use a discount code cryptid25 for 25% off your entire order. And in the description, if you put Team Odin or codename Wild Hunt in the notes, he'll even throw in a little Team Odin rocker for the patch on the pack. So definitely check out Dark Angel Medical. Robbie, you want to tell us a little bit about Scallywag Tactical? I can't hear you, Robbie. Yep, your mic kicked out. All right, Robbie will be right back. I'll switch it over to the Scallywag real quick. He has to reboot. For some reason, his mic does not always work and play well with Melon. Where is he at? Come on, Robbie. Uh-oh. He may be having trouble getting back. Maybe I might have to stall, talk about Brock Blades for a second. Oh, there he is. Just getting ready to switch it. There we go. There, you made it.
Thought I was gonna make it a whole time.
Whole episode.
Almost. Canada, huh? Almost made it. Did you play the video, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. As I was saying before my mic so rudely interrupted me, Scallywag Tactical is another one of our affiliates that is another veteran-owned company. Craig is a veteran of the military and a good friend of ours. Makes some of the best blades. That's the Gunner's Mate, which is back in stock right now.
In stock.
Checked today to see if there was a blemish on it, and there wasn't. So one of these days I'll have $190 when they're in stock, and I'll be able to get myself one. But great knives. If you're friends with if you've read the books and familiar with the books, DA features these knives heavily in the books. That's the Dew Claw. I've got that one too. That is a excellent camp knife.
The Dew Claw is available now, but will be disappearing forever before the end of this year.
Yep.
What they have in stock now is all they're going to have.
Yep. So they've got fixed blades, folders, fillet knives. That's the razor. And
this is the razor folder. They have a razor fixed blade as well.
That is a cool knife. DA let me look at that at the Bigfoot conference. That is pretty cool because it's like holding a razor on steroids, a straight razor on steroids. And all these knives are amazing knives. I've got a Jolly Roger, I've got a Sailor Assisted folder, I've got an Orca, I've got a Dew Claw. DA's got everything else. But I've had most of my Scallywag knives for close to a year now, and I still have yet to put them on a sharpening stone, and they're still as sharp as they were the day I got them. Amazing knives. Like you heard me say earlier, they've got this. There's the S word, the Bounty. That is a beautiful blade.
The Bounty is going to be featured in an upcoming movie.
Yeah, I remember Doc talking about that. Was it a Nicolas Cage movie? I think.
Nick Cage movie. I cannot remember the name of it, but the Bounty is going to be in it.
I just remember him talking about it was going to be in that new Nicolas Cage movie. So, but you heard me talk about the blemish blades earlier. They do have a section called blemish blades, and there's not usually anything wrong with the knives. It's usually just the box. I think DA has one knife that's got one little bitty scuff or a smudge on it that you can't even really see unless he points it out, which I think he's
here. It's the spindrift. There's a little scratch. Now, the only scratch that was on this when I got it was right here, right where my finger's at. Now, the others I put there, but the only one that was on it when I got it was right here at this corner.
9 times out of 10, it's the box. Boxes have been stacked up, and one of them falls over, or something gets crushed, and they can't sell it as new, so they put it on the blemish blade section, and you get a pretty good discount on that. But speaking of discounts, go pile you up a couple of knives from the blemish blade section, save you some money on that. Then when you go to the checkout, hit code DA Roberts 10. And you get an extra 10% off of that. It stacks up. It's a great deal.
Those of you who've been waiting, the Karambit is finally back in stock.
I noticed that day too. I'm glad.
That's one of the ones I've been wanting for a long time, and it's just been out of stock.
Yep, those are Doug Marcata's favorite type of knife. It will kill. And for everybody who doesn't understand, he is not saying kill as in Kill. It's Keal. Kill. Keep everyone alive. Because if you
Karambit's a great blade.
Yes, because if you have to do something bad to somebody who's trying to do something bad to you and protect everybody else, you're keeping everyone alive.
Exactly. I have one of their mini Karambits. Let me see if I can find it. They've got a series of knives that you can wear on a chain around your neck, and that's the only one of their Karambits I've got at the moment.
Roxanne wants to know, in honor of Doc, these knives will cut you 3 ways: long, deep, and continuous.
And they will certainly do it.
So head on over to Scallywag Tactical. Tell them we sent you by using code DA Roberts 10. Get you some money off. get you some good knives, help Craig out, which is what we like to see happen. You know, we like these knives. We all got them. DA features them in the books, and he does that for a reason, because it's stuff that he uses, stuff that we all use. So that's why you see all of us characters in the book have them, because they're good knives, and that's why you see us all have them in real life.
Because they're good quality knives, and I rely on my gear. Our other affiliate, last but not least, is Ken Brock, who's in the audience a lot.
Toom sent me a message. It's the new Renfield movie that the bounty is in.
The new Renfield movie, the bounty's
yes.
in. Awesome. Okay, thanks, Toom. Ken Brock is in the audience a lot, giving Robbie a hard time, usually picking on him about the big words. Ken Brock has brockblades.com, and he makes custom-made knives. Whereas all the Dark Angel blade and the Scallywag tactical blades, if you buy two, they're mass produced. They're beautiful blades. They're high quality. Don't get me wrong. The Kens are one of a kind. This one's the Skin Dew, which means black blade. This was a holdout knife the Highlanders kept in their sock. This is the only one I have of his at the moment, but I'm working on getting more.
Dang it, we're missing the Street Weasel tonight.
We don't have Doc here with the Street Weasel and the, what is the neck scalpel?
Yeah, the neck scalpel.
But Ken makes all of his blades custom. If you know anybody that's an outdoorsman that hunts, fishes, camps, cryptid hunts, or is in the military or law enforcement, the gift of a custom-made blade is something that they will cherish. And no two blades that he makes are identical. You can select the type of handle you want, the pattern you want, the style of blade you want, and they're all made custom. And if when you check out, if you use discount code cryptid10, you'll get 10% off your order. Or if you're ordering a custom, make sure you mention that you heard about brockblades.com through this show, and he'll get you the 10% off on your blades. We're proud to be an affiliate with Ken. Ken's a veteran of law enforcement, been in law enforcement since God was a corporal. Ken's been around a while, and he's an old vet. And we're damn proud to be an affiliate with Ken, and we're proud of you, Brady. And we're all about supporting our law enforcement and our first responders and our military and our veterans, and that's why we've chosen all three of these because they're either law enforcement, first responder or veteran-owned companies, and we're all about supporting those. And that brings me to one other thing that's kind of the unspoken.
Is Toom said though? What we say about Ken's knives, they're the Rolls Royce of knives. Just like DA is the Tom Clancy of cryptids. Ken's knives are the Rolls Royce of knives. And see, I said something nice about him, and he's always talking bad about me. I'm just kidding. I love you, Ken. I know you're not on tonight, but he's my little buddy.
I will try to have the shirt on Wednesday night show because I got just one of the newest shows that Valhalla Project put out. But I also got this with it, and I wear this all the time. It's Valhalla Project. It's a bracelet supporting 22 a day. The Valhalla Project and the 22 a day Foundation are two things that are very near and dear to my heart. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. If you know anybody out there who is a veteran or in law enforcement or a first responder in any capacity, check on them once in a while. Let them know. Shoot them a text. Just let them know you're thinking of them, and let them know you're there. Because these folks see some horrific things, and sometimes the things that they've seen are just more than they can take, and that's why we're losing 22 a day. And again, that 22 a day is way too many. So any of your friends and family, or anybody you know that is first responder or a veteran, reach out to them once in a while. Send them a text. Just let them know you're thinking of them. Let them know you're there. Because that one text you send them might be what keeps them off the brink. And the 22 a day Foundation and the Valhalla Project are very near and dear to me for that reason. I want to say big thank you to our moderators. Moderators, you guys do a kick-ass job. Appreciate each and every one of you guys so much. Hashtag DAX mods rock. You guys are the best. We want to thank each and every one of you guys for being part of the DAX Machina Nation. We are so thrilled to have you guys with us each and every day. And we're very, very humbled and thrilled that you guys take so much time out of your day and your week to spend with us to talk about weird topics and all kinds of crazy things. And we love doing it, and it's something we hope that we can keep doing for a long time to come. Hopefully Wednesday we'll have Doc back. I think he's supposed to be back from Tombstone Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully we'll have Doc back, but I'm not sure when Steve's coming back from his cruise. But I hope they're both having fun. And boys, we're keeping you guys in our prayers that you guys get home safe. And I hope you guys have an awesome time. Big shout out and thanks to all our mods. You guys are awesome. You guys do such a great job. If you guys have not had a chance to go over and like, share, and subscribe, go over and make sure you like and subscribe to the channels that we've mentioned, because I know both Scallywag Tactical and Dark Angel Medical have YouTube channels, and you can get free classes like first aid classes on Dark Angel Medical's website, and the Dark Angel, I'm sorry, the Scallywag Tactical website, you can see Mike Donavito, who is a hand-to-hand combat instructor, using many of these knives. And if you haven't had a chance to watch the video he does with the Gunner's Mate, you need to. It is incredible what he can do with that knife. Also, check out our sister show over at Blondes and Booze. Check out their YouTube channel and their podcast, and give them like, share, and subscribe. A couple of the girls from there are in the chat tonight, and are some of our moderators. Share the love with them. A lot of crazy stuff coming in the near future, folks. The boys from DAX Monk. What's that, bud?
Don't forget Nona Boss.
Check out Nona Boss too. Marty's one of our mods too. Nona Boss Continuum here on YouTube. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to hers as well. Robbie, tell us about what's really out there.
Well, what's really out there is kind of like we always like to make the joke, DAX Machina Light. We do pretty much the same type topics, just a little bit less involved most of the time, because it's pre-recorded. It's just, we don't have the feedback on that show that we have here, which sometimes is okay, but a lot of times it just kind of, but it's the same feel. It's just a bunch of us sitting around talking about a subject. We just released an episode on the Hodag, I believe, which was a pretty cool episode. I thought, 'cause I'd never heard about it before we had the show, but it was pretty cool. Where it's, what we were talking about earlier with Hans Bay, South Africa, basing their city's economy on shark cage diving. This town pretty much based its entire existence on this, which it turned out to be that it was, it was a hoax, but that town still to this day survives on a lot of the. I mean, the police department it's not named after the town. It's the Hodag Police Department. It actually has a picture of the creature on the side of the car. And that's
same thing with Falk, Arkansas. They've got the Falk monster on the side of their squad car.
Yeah. And that's kind of the stuff that we like to do, is just find those little, it's fun to talk about, the dogman and the Bigfoot and the Gugways and the Beast of LBO. It's fun to talk about all those, the big ones that everybody knows about and talks about. But it's also fun to kind of dig into those little quirky ones, the ones that you don't really know about or hadn't really heard about, because sometimes those can be a little bit more fun because you don't know a lot about them, and you're kind of, a lot of times when DA and I talk, and Doc and Steve, we talk about these things, it's something that we've read about and we've talked about a lot and we know a lot about. But when you get these that you don't really know a lot about and you're kind of discovering about it for the first time, that sometimes is kind of exhilarating at times. You're just like, oh wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So it's fun to throw those in there from time to time. So go check us out on YouTube. What's really out there? If you like it, leave us a like, subscribe, please. But that's pretty much it.
They do a lot of really good stuff. The show they just did on the Patterson Gimlin film, very good show. You guys should definitely check that out. But look for some interesting stuff coming from us here at DAX Machina in the near future. Not only are we looking to be part of a couple of documentaries, we're also looking to be filming one of our own. We've got the camera equipment now. We've got the know-how. We've got the places in mind. We just got to find the time where we can all get together and do it.
Yep.
So, yeah, definitely be watching for some interesting stuff coming. And I hope you guys were with us this last Saturday when we did the pictures that I took of the footprints I found outside our cabin in Gatlinburg. If you haven't had a chance to check that show out, I'd love for you guys to check it out.
And that's even another past what DA was just talking about. That's another project, the three of us, which Steve wasn't there, so I'm sure he would probably want to be part of that too.
I'm sure Steve would want to. Yeah,
that's another project that have talked about and hopefully have in the works. So
going back to those mountains.
Yep. So, like you said, hold on. There's
more to come.
There's some fun curves coming up.
Well, folks, again, thank you guys for being with us. Thanks for hanging out and spending your Saturday evening with us. I know we normally go a little longer than 2 hours sometimes, but my oldest son is in town, and it's his birthday this weekend. So I need to kind of wrap things up so I can spend a little time with my oldest boy and have some cake and wish him happy birthday. And if he happens to be watching, happy birthday, Nathan. I love you, buddy. We'll start wrapping things up here, and we'll call it a night. And we will see you guys again on Wednesday night, when we will have a whole new topic to discuss and a bunch of crazy stuff that's still going on in this old world of ours. And, we don't have to dig too deep because it seems like every time we turn around, something new's popping up that we got a chance to talk about. So, folks, thank you guys for being with us. Thank you guys for being part of the DAX Machina Nation. Big shout out and thanks to all the moderators out there. And, make sure you show some love to our affiliate programs. That's Scallywag Tactical. Well, use discount code DARoberts10. That's also Dark Angel Medical. Use discount code cryptid25 for 25% off your entire order. And brockblades.com. Use discount code cryptid10 for 10% off your order. And let them know we sent you and how much we appreciate them. So, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you for spending your Saturday night with us. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday night. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.